John Trippon, United States Army, World War II. I interviewed John in Mesa, Arizona. It was March 24th, 2003, folks, coming up on 22 years. I've been doing this work now for almost a quarter of a century. Wow. John was one of my first D-Day veterans. That was the second trip I made to Arizona back then, and met him and his wife at the time, and it's just a great interview. Just really had a great interview with John. And he served in the United States Army, was on Omaha Beach on D-Day, June 6, 1944. Second wave in Omaha Beach, folks. Half his unit was killed on the landing there. And he served with the 6th Engineer Special Brigade. He was a combat engineer with the 1st Army Combat Corps. And just a great story, one of the best stories I have of D-Day, so you have to listen to this. And I really miss John, miss all my veterans. This is the first love of my work here, folks. And it was really a great time with him. I'd like to thank Michael and Darlene Surofsky over in the Denver area for making it possible for me to share a lot of these stories with you folks. They've been great supporters of my work, and I know you're carrying a big load there, Michael, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys so much, and allowing me the opportunity to share the history with our younger generation, folks. History is best learned from those who were there, and Michael, you're helping me to do this. God bless you, sir. And I really appreciate you, and thank you for supporting our veterans, and thank you for supporting my radio station. I play your promo all the time, and it's a great blessing for others to hear these stories on KVOH, Voices of History Radio. So a big thank you again to everybody that supported my work in the past few years and donated to this work and my radio station. Can't thank you enough. I just have a grateful heart for you, and I thank God for you, that He would richly bless all of you. So, okay, folks, if you haven't, subscribe to this channel. It's growing, and listen to the radio station. It's out there, and just share these videos. You know, an act of remembrance is an act of honor, folks. I named my documentary series "Lest They Be Forgotten" for a reason. If we don't remember, we're going to forget. So it's very important as we go forward into 2025, and with everything happening in this country right now, I just pray it's going to all end with the good. Good's going to triumph over evil. So that's the way I see it. Common sense will show us that. Amen. Thank you, and let's honor John Trippon now. God bless you. Well, we're just going to take this slow. First thing I want you to do, I know who you are. Just introduce yourself to me and tell me what division or what. See, you were with the 1st Engineer Special Brigade. Just introduce yourself and tell me what part you had in Omaha Beach.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I look down at this stuff, don't let it distract you, because I'm going to be going like this and like this and all that. So, but yeah, go ahead, John.
My name is John Trippon. I joined the Army. I volunteered, and I joined in Aurora, Illinois, September 3rd, 1942, and I was taken to Chicago on the Burlington Railroad to an Army induction center on Clark Street. And from there I was put on another train at the end of that day and was shipped to Camp Grant in Rockford, Illinois. And from there I was shipped down to Camp Robinson, Arkansas for infantry training. However, I had joined the Army to get in the Air Force, and I never did get to the Air Force.
What I really want to focus on is the landing on Omaha Beach. Mm-hmm. And specifically, just if you can just kind of give me a little synopsis or timeline from, did you debark and get off of an LST onto a landing craft?
LCI.
Okay, you came in all the way from England on an LCI. Okay.
Yeah.
What I want you to do is just kind of retrace that morning, give me an approximate of what time you went on the beach, John. Mm-hmm. And what I'm really trying to capture is what you were, I know you said you put it out of your mind for a long time, but I really want to pick your brain a little bit, what you were thinking, what you were hearing, what you were expecting when you hit the beach, something about the other men on the LCI as you approach shore, machine gun fire, artillery. Just go into it at any point there. Tell me about before you hit the beach, what was going on, what you were seeing and experience.
Excuse me. I left off about the 5th Fighter Command. Should I just drop that for now?
That's fine.
You'll just cut that out or whatever you want to do.
I'll edit this. This will be fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So just kind of, you're coming into Omaha Beach. I want to know what you were seeing.
Well, I want to tell you something before
Sure. Go ahead.
When I was stationed in, this off the record now, when I was stationed in England, I was an engineer in an engineering outfit, and it was called the 11th Port of Embarkation, and we were attached to that unit to go into Omaha Beach. And prior to going in there, because of all the heavy equipment the Americans had, tank retrievers and so on, they wouldn't fit underneath bridges and so on in England. So I had the job of making overlays of the southern part of England, and I got information from the Ministry of War as to the height of all their arched bridges and so on. And from that I disseminated different routes for the different outfits like ordnance and heavy equipment and tanks and so on what roads they would take to get to Weymouth and to Southampton to get on LSTs, LCIs, and whatever other type of ships would handle their cargo. So that was my job. Well, then when we went into Omaha Beach, then I'll tell you that part. So.
Yeah, now you're approaching shore, you haven't landed, I want to know what's happening, what you're hearing, what you're seeing.
Well, I'm going to start getting on the LCI at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Go ahead.
It was the morning of June the 6th, and we went to, we were located in Weymouth, England, in a camp down there, and we were given anything and everything we wanted. The day before, we got fresh eggs, they fed us steaks. It was completely different than living in a camp in England, whereby we got just regular GI food. And whatever line you wanted to get into, you got new combat boots issued, you got wristwatches, compasses, whatever you needed to go in the invasion. And they couldn't treat us better for the kill. So we got on board an LCI in Weymouth, and it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and we went across the channel. It was very dark, but we could hear the bombing from the ships out in the channel. The American Navy was parked out there broadside, and they were lobbing in shells along the entire area of the Omaha Beach, and probably Utah also, but we were going into Omaha. And we were supposed to go into a beach sector called Dog Red. However, because of the miscalculation by whoever in the Coast Guard was manning our LCI, we really ended up in an area called Dog Green. And we were supposed to go in there. I was attached to the 5th Corps, which also had the 29th Division and the 6th Engineer Special Brigade. And the first troops landed in there, I don't know, about 4:30 or in that time frame. And we got there around 6:30, but we never got ashore until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And by that time,
it's okay. You just take your time.
By that time, the beach was pretty loaded with dead guys. And the water was just red from blood and guys floating all over. But anyhow, we got in there and the LCI that I was on couldn't beach far enough in to drop the ramp so we could just walk off. So where I got off, ran down the ramp, because of all the shelling, there were very large craters, and they had a bandolier of ammo on, a carbine and gas mask and the whole enchilada. And when I stepped off, I went down about 20 feet in the water, and I had gotten a brand new wristwatch when I graduated from high school that I had on. It had an expandable band, and we carried our combat gear on just one shoulder so we could flip it off if we had to, instead of putting it on our back. So when I was trying to get this off, I'm underwater and all kinds of things going through my mind. And when I did, the wristwatch came off because of the strap from my combat field pack. So anyway, I got up on shore, and it was just complete chaos. Troops were not organized in their units. They were in various parts of the beach. We were on a different beach than we thought we were going to land on. And so the first thing I smelled was new mown hay. And I thought, oh my God, we're getting gassed, you know. So I whipped out my gas mask. And because I was a real young, skinny guy, I was all hungry, I put food in my gas mask all the time. So I had a banana in there. And when I whipped out my gas mask, of course, the banana hit me in the face. So I did the pressure test on the face mask, blowing air out so there was no gas in there. And I couldn't get any air through it. What had happened was, because I was underwater, the canister got filled with water. And that's something that our high command never thought of that would happen, you know, as far as gas masks getting filled with water. So anyhow, I saw the guys walking around the beach and running up towards this hillside by a cliff. So I just threw my gas mask away. I figured if they're breathing, I can too. So I ran up to this hillside, which was a very high cliff. That was the only place we had any protection from the Germans who were lobbing shells into guys' vest pockets practically. They were so accurate. So now we were there for, well, all the rest of that day until D+1 at noon. We finally got to the Highway N13, and we captured a chateau up there called the Chateau Verville, and we had our headquarters there. And then we had a heavy rain, and we didn't have any food. And so another buddy of mine, we had dug a foxhole. We decided to dig a two-man foxhole so one of us could lay down and sleep while the other was on duty. And the fellow I was buddied up with, his name was Joe Olds. He lives in Houston, Texas now. And so we were hungry, and there were all kinds of dead cows all over the place from all the shelling, and the French had picked some up and taken them into their barns and were butchering them. So we walked through a field and got to this French barn, and Frenchman came out and he was hollering to us, Layat, you know, you're going to give us some milk. I said, no, we want boeuf, we want beef. So we went into the barn, and they had white tablecloths on some tables, and they were butchering this cow. So he gave us a hind quarter. We took it back to our campsite, and we were bivouacked, and of course it had rained so much we couldn't light a fire, so we got a jerry can of gasoline and spilled on some wood, and finally got this fire going and charred the living heck out of this hind quarter of beef, which we cleaned off all the burnt section when we went to eat. And the next day, the 29th Infantry Division, their engineering group came through to check the mines in the field, and where my friend Joe and I had walked, through this cow pasture. We went to and from our bivouac area to the barn through the same pasture twice, you know, going and coming, and they found it just full of mines, and one guy stepped on the mine, of course, and blew him up and blew his legs off. And so anyhow, from there, we went up to a town called Carentan, and when we got there, there were still fellas from the paratroopers that had landed the night before the invasion. Some of them were still hanging from the concrete telephone poles and from trees that hadn't been cut loose yet. And so anyhow, we eventually got up to St. Lo, and the day that we were there, they were bombing the heck out of St. Lo, and apparently what they had planned on doing, the Americans.
Give that to me again. Did the ramp go down? Did somebody lower the ramp? Did you guys all run out? So give me that. I want to hear this.
Well, while we were crossing the channel, of course, we really truly did not know what we were getting into. And we were all a bunch of young guys and very naive and really greenhorns as far as any combat training. We had the combat training, but we didn't have any experience in an actual battle condition. So yes, we were concerned, and guys weren't doing too much talking. And this LCI had been used before to take British troops over to their sector, which was Sword Beach. And the guys had upchucked in there. It was kind of putrid. We went up on deck, and of course it was real windy up there and dark, and you could see the flash of lights, you know, 20 some miles away from the guns of the battleships that we had, the U.S. battleship that we had there bombing the beach area. And prior to that, for about 4 days, the 8th and 9th Air Force had gone into Omaha Beach and just pummeled it. But yet, when we finally got there and they lowered the ramps down, like I said before, they couldn't get us in far enough so we could just walk ankle deep or knee deep in the water. And because of the craters that had been created by the heavy bombardment from the 8th and 9th Air Force the previous days, you know, I went down in the water about 20-some feet. And when I got up on the beach, and as I explained about my gas mask, a lot of things went through my mind standing there with my helmet between my knees trying to put my gas mask on. And I never thought I'd ever live to, you know, get out of there alive. And so then, as I said, we went up to this cliff and kind of hid there.
Now, but what about all the other men getting out of this boat? I mean, did some of them drown? Did they all make it to the shore? I mean, there's probably 60 guys on that boat?
Well, actually, there were only about 30 of us. And another thing that happened while we were on that boat, one of the personnel from the Coast Guard that were manning this LCI, he was a machinist, and he was making cigarette lighters out of some shells that he was selling to the guys going in. In fact, I bought one myself. And so anyhow, but most of the guys on our LCI made it to shore, and some did drown, but most of them got on shore. And
what as a 19-year-old?
I was 20.
Okay, as a 20-year-old young man, I mean, what were you thinking? Were you thinking about home? Were you focused on your mission? I mean, did you think, oh, what am I doing here? Or was it, I'm ready? I mean, were the machine guns crisscrossing the beach like I've heard? I mean, was there a lot of machine gun fire?
Oh, there was machine gun fire. There was a machine gun nest up on Highway N13 where this road went up from the beach area right in front of this chateau at Verville. And they had us pinned down. I mean, we couldn't do anything. And sure, we were scared as heck. My heart pounded so hard when I was trying to put on a gas mask that you know, I could actually feel my heart pounding, you know. it was very scary. It was, you know, I was a young kid and had no idea what I really was getting into.
You know, that's incredible that a lot of the things you've said, I've heard other veterans say, the chaos, didn't know what they're getting into. You know, and around you, death and destruction. I mean, that's probably the first time you've ever seen anything like that, you know? Have you blocked that out of your mind? How do you get through that?
Well, you know, up until today, I really have blocked it out of my mind. In fact, I didn't even go to see that movie, Private Ryan. My daughter had gone to see it, and she told me that she didn't think I really should. And a buddy of mine that I met on the beach, he was the first guy from my unit that I recognized. His name is Casper Faust. He was from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We were real good friends. He's deceased now. And anyhow, when I saw him on the beach and he didn't have a gas mask on, I ran up to where he was. And so that was pretty much it. But yes, we were scared. We didn't know what was going on. And as far as chaos, you know, we were completely detached from all the members of our outfit. Even the guy, this Joe Olds that I went down on the LCI to get on the beach, I never saw him for another day. I don't know what the heck ever happened to him, but there was just seemed like most of the non-commissioned officers and some of the officers had disappeared where, I don't know. Some got killed. But the beach the water was all blood red. There was guys floating all around. The following day, they had a bulldozer in that dug a trench with the blade of the bulldozer, which was about 6-7 feet wide. And they dug a trench down about 4 feet into the beach sand. And they just put bodies in bags, just with their dog tags on the bag, and then they covered them up. And when we got up to Highway N13 and up going to Carentan, I saw trucks, stake trucks like they would have on a farm, loaded with bodies, one on top of another, taking them to St. Maria Iglesias Cemetery. So saw cows that were bloated, saw guys that were all bloated from laying there for a day or so. There was a hot sun. And behind the chateau, somebody had their hand blown off. The hand from the wrist down was laying in a pathway when we went through that woods. And his hand had turned all dark. I don't know why, and the fingernails were almost white. It was a Caucasian man, however. And all the trees in that chateau area were just like toothpicks snapped off from about a level of, let's say, 20 feet off the ground from the shelling from the battleships out in the channel.
Well, you mentioned earlier, why do you think, you know, you didn't expect to live through there? Why do you think you made it? I mean, a lot of people didn't make it.
Oh, I would say it's just maybe all the praying that my then lady friend, my fiance, did for me. And she had given me a St. Christopher medal to wear, which I wore throughout the war. And I just, the faith in my religion and God, I think, is what made me come through. Yeah.
I need to tell you something. I'm the last thing, freedom, liberty, etc., based on what World War II was.
Well, the way we were raised when we were children is completely different than what children are being raised today. Whatever we were told to do, we did. And if we didn't, there was some punishment attached to it. And nowadays, with all the liberal ideas, you can't touch a child. They can pretty much do whatever they want to and get away with it. And they can even threaten their parents to take them to court if they want to. But back then, whatever we were told to do, we did. And when the war started, I joined the Army. I volunteered, and so did all my friends. Some joined the Navy, some joined the Marine Corps, and others the Army. And we went in because we really were proud of our country. We were dedicated to our country and to the democracy that we thought we were living in at the time. And it was unlike we've had in recent years, where we even had a president who did everything possible to stay out of the service, which he did accomplish. And I've always resented that. I could never look up to him as a president of this country or a commander-in-chief to send any men into battle when he was such a yellow belly himself, you know. And I couldn't admire him or respect him, and I never will. And I just feel that we were naive in many, many ways as to what our country really demanded of us. But we volunteered to go in, and we actually fought for this country because we loved this country and still do. And I don't think that people are like that anymore. I really resent what's going on today with this war in Iraq, where they have all these protesters out there. You know, they have the freedom because of what this country stands for and because of all the veterans that have fought for their freedoms. And they have this freedom to get out and vent their feelings as to how they feel against this war. However, I feel it's terrible that they are doing this when the troops are out there fighting right now. You know, God bless every one of these fellas that are out there, because, and bring them home safe and sound, because they're doing something for the future of the world. Iraq will be a much better country, and so will those people living there. They'll live better than they've ever imagined or ever have known because of what we're doing there right now. And I think instead of berating these troops by having these rallies out there against the war, can you imagine how you would feel if you're out there fighting and living under battle conditions, and then the people back home are having rallies against the war? And I have to go back to many times that I was, you know, if it rained, you're out in the rain. You didn't have a place to go in and crawl into a nice warm bed. And I resented that about Clinton. I wouldn't even call him a president. I resent that about him. Many times I thought, you know, it's 30 degrees out, 20 degrees out. There's no place to go in and take a shower or to sleep in a warm place. And but he always had some place to sleep. And I just resented that about him.
Well, I agree with what you said. I really do.
You don't have to agree if you don't want to. I just, that's how I feel.
You voiced
Yeah.
the way I felt a lot of
Yeah.
times. And
The children of today versus our generation. I have never felt, even though I was, you know, in the invasion and all that, I've never really felt like I really did a whole lot. I really have. I don't feel like, I don't know how to put it, like the country owes me anything. I did it because I felt strongly about our country. And to tell you if I'd ever volunteer again, no, I wouldn't. And the reason I wouldn't was because of how I see how people today treat the servicemen. You know, they really crap on us. And I have a disability from an injury in the service. And when I see our congressmen try to get our votes by promising us all kind of things, and they give me a $3 a month raise last month, I think it's really shoddy. I really would never. And every time we had something going on to go for an advance party to do some scouting, oh, it's Trippon, Trippon. Finally I said to my sergeant, what the hell you keep picking me up for the advance party? He says, what's your serial number? I said, 1612452. He said, that's why. I said, what the hell does that got to do with it? I never realized what the one meant. The one meant I volunteered. 2 was a draftee. 3 was a National Guard, you know. I would never volunteer. Are we off the record here?
Yeah.
Oh, good. And the other thing too was when when we went into different areas, like say Rouen, France, there was a big Shell Oil Company tank farm there. We were told not to destroy it. I mean, they protected all kinds of different things that they wanted to for different corporations, you know. They really did.